Alright, so picking up where we left off, pretty much what we're going to do now is we're going to look and we're going to see how we can make more inventory items. So from the top here, all we really need to look at is the inventory window. And from here, all we have is these empty game objects. And all these game objects do is it'll hold the logic for, oh no, I'm sorry, not the logic, it'll hold the um, item counts for the categories that we're using. Sorry. So, um, currently in the demo, this is just obviously for demo purposes, but I have potions, herbs, items, and just miscellaneous things. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you can, separate your items, from like, you know, chest pieces or head pieces or, what have you, whatever you want for your game. Or you can just make one block and then put every single item in your game inside that block, whatever you want to do. I just find it easier to separate everything, so you don't have just one big list. But yeah, so pretty much all you have to do is if you want to add another potion, let's say, so all we would do is and make an int, and we would just name it, let's say, potion of luck. Okay. And we'll set our starting value to 19. Okay. And then all we do from here is we just open up our root. Go ahead and disable the initial text for now. Open up our potion window, and we would just open up the potions container here, and then just make another copy of what we already have here. Okay. So what we'll go ahead and do now is rename the actual item. So potion of luck, and we'll go in here. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we'll go actually in the block first. Okay, so for each item, this is what's going to hold the logic for updating the values, and for the mouse hovering and the mouse exiting for the tooltip. Okay, so from the top here we have the title, which is, and this is all what's going to show in the tooltip, mind you. This has nothing to do with actual, any in-game logic that you do. This would be just strictly tooltip. So pretty much what we're doing is we're setting the name that we're wanting. We're getting the game object icon from the icon here. So if you want to change this icon to something else, you can change it to like, a green potion for luck or what have you. Anything you want. And then the quantity is the text for the quantity, and that's in the logic for this, which I'll show you in a second. And then the name, the type, the make of it, and then any effect that you want to put on here. I just have 4. You could add as many as you want. You just got to make sure you edit the proper tooltip object here to compensate for any added things you want, and then some details. So in the blocks, let's go ahead and change this first. Potion of luck, and then the only reason I have these as caps is because of the font that I was using for the tooltip. You could have these lowercase or whatever you want. 6, 5. Okay. So in the blocks for the item, the only thing you need to edit from here is the first block here, the set text. So remember how we set the item in our main block here that holds our quantities. So we have potion of luck, and its current count is 19. So pretty much what we want to do is we want to set the text of this quantity number here to the amount that we have in our actual inventory for potions. Okay. So for that, all we do is we just set text to get the amount of potion of luck in inventory potions as by blocks as integer. Okay. So now this will update our current amount of potion of luck that we have. And then the mouse over and the mouse exit is strictly just for the tooltips. Everything here is pretty self-explanatory. It's just setting the text and the elements on the tooltip to um, the things that we have set in here. So all that's pretty self-explanatory, and then this just disables the window. Other than that, all you have to do from here is just now set the name of the actual item, because remember this was just for the tooltip. Now we have to set the name of the item in the inventory. So put, oops. So potion of luck, and that's focus. There we go. So now, all we have to do is open up our. We'll close this out. Reset it to how we need it as default. Disable the root, and we'll go ahead and play. So yeah, it's pretty simple to add the items. All you're really doing is you're adding another local variable, and then changing some of the block logic and the variable logic for the item itself. So we open up our inventory, go to potions, and you see here we have potion of luck. And as you can see on the effects, we have our 75 luck. We didn't change the details obviously, but that's pretty much the general stuff about it. And then if we want, we'll change, the amount. So here we have 6. We'll set to 67. Now we have 67 potions. So whenever you're adding or subtracting counts from your inventory, you're pretty much only going to just reference the local variable inside of this. So everything will always look back to these game objects that you have set here for the inventory. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you add more items to the inventory. So let's go ahead and move on to the crafting. Crafting is pretty simple. Pretty much what we do is we go into, we're not here, drop down, menu, and container. Okay. So for the container, no, we don't. Hold on a second. There we go. Crafting menu list. I'm sorry. Okay, so for the crafting menu, pretty much if we want to add another item, sorry, all we have to do is pretty much just copy and paste the. We find the value here. Copy and paste, same thing as we did for the inventory. Just think of this as another sub inventory, I guess, that just holds things that you can make. And like I said before, for another update, I can add, instancing to this list here. So, it can be, if you pick up a blueprint, it'll add, potion of luck, instead of just already having things that you could make already listed here. But that can be a different update, it should prove easy enough. But yeah, so from the top here, for the crafting window, all we have is the item we've selected. So we select this potion of healing, this gets set. The selected item duration, so this is the cooldown for when we can craft more items. And that is, just set to a default value right now, but that is located inside of the item itself. So the duration here will get set. And after that, it's pretty much it. This is just window related things. So only logic for crafting is these two top ones. So for the potion itself, the only things that we're going to be looking at is the counts and the counts and the images here. So from the top here, on the block sides of things for the variables, all we do is we're referencing these images. Okay, now depending on the crafting system that you want to make, all this will be changed. Right now, the crafting system that we have will provide you with 3 ingredients max that you could have to give you one item. So 3 ingredients, so 1, 2, and 3, and it goes from left to right. So this is slot 1 ingredient, slot 2 ingredient, slot 3, okay? And this is your outcome item. So pretty much what it'll go is when you click Potion of Healing, it will set this icon to the icon that you have set here in this disabled game object, okay? Then, when you tooltip over this, it will then populate it with these values here. So all these are tooltip related, has nothing to do with anything else. None of the items qualities. It's all just tooltip related here. Okay, so same thing for ingredient 2, and same thing for ingredient 3. So when you're editing these, make sure that you always have, the outcome image that you want, the first ingredient, second ingredient, third ingredient, setting their images, and the images get set here. I have it disabled because it's just an easy reference that you can see, what it's like with this image, and you can see it getting populated over here, and it's just an easy way to get the sprite from this. So pretty much we just disable the image component, and then we'll just drag and drop it in here. So yeah, so there we have the first ingredient, second ingredient, third ingredient, with all the details regarding each that will be shown in the tooltip, and then we have the logic itself. So like I said, the only thing that we would really need to change when we're doing this item is the ingredient 1 cost, ingredient 2 cost, and ingredient 3 cost. So let's say we want to make a potion of healing, and we want it to take 5 empty vials, let's say, which wouldn't make sense, but anyways, 5 empty vials, 50 elderberries, and 90 wheat. Okay, then what we would do is we would just update each value from left to right here. Okay, and then just whatever duration that we want for this item, and then inside of the block logic here, all we're doing is we're setting the selected item in our crafting window, which is here. So remember, these two are the only things that are getting set. We're setting the selected item to this object. Okay, so it's getting set to potion, draw to feeling. Okay, then we're setting the selected item duration to duration in self, which is 5. Okay, then from here we're going to enable the game objects in the item crafting window. So, and then these are just these count objects here. So 1, 2, and 3. And then what these look like when they're enabled is just the values. So these are just text values. And then obviously these will represent, the ingredient costs that are set in the potion itself. So that would be next in the list. So we just enable those accounts. We set the sprites of all of the images. So we set the outcome, ingredient 1, 2, and 3. And from there, we set the we enable the counts, set the sprites, and then we set the actual count number to what it is in our inventory. So now this is where it gets into the logic of the actual meat of everything. And I made these nested in the comment blocks, which are in common here, just so you can not have everything so cluttered, because it looks like it's a lot of daunting logic, but it's really just a lot of copy and paste stuff. So obviously we don't need to look at tooltip. That's all that stuff is self-explanatory, like I said before. And we just pretty much have this block right here is what does the logic for everything. So all we need to look at is the setting the text. So what we're doing is we're going to set text on ingredient 1 count, which is what gets enabled, okay, to the ingredient that we have in the inventory. So obviously this requires a little bit of work, and I don't know if I'll change this later on, but this is just the way that I have thought to do this. It may be slow, or it may be not be as efficient as some people may like, but it's just the way that I went about doing it. So pretty much what I'm going about here is all you're doing is setting the text to the amount. So the downfall to this is that for every item that you do make, every crafting item, you have to go in the blocks and set the ingredients to reference the item that's in the inventory. So yeah, all you're doing is for the potion of healing, I already know that these ingredients are for the potion of healing. And you would in your game, you probably have like an Excel sheet or something, that would break down every item in the game, that's craftable, that has all the ingredients. So it's a little bit easier for you to look at. So yeah, that's all we're doing here is we're just setting the text of these counts to the recipes or the ingredients that are relative to this item. So yeah, make sure when you're creating a new item, you go back in here and set the correct ingredients for these values here and the proper game object that you look for. So if we were creating an axe, like we have here for the axe, for creating an axe, we're going to look for axe in inventory items, a shaft in inventory miscellaneous, and a grindstone in inventory miscellaneous. So make sure all these are set to the proper things or you will get errors. Okay. And then obviously this is just the cost of what everything is. So everything's pretty simple there on that front, and that's it. That's how you add more items. Now the logic for all this, when you want to craft that item, comes from this one button here, the craft button. Ready? So this is where the rest of everything comes. So to make it a little bit easier for you guys, instead of just making everything in one custom state and then doing an if to check if that item is selected, all you have to do is just create a custom state that can be triggered when you click this craft button. So if we select Potion of Healing, remember, the selected item will get set here, the duration will get set, and everything will be good. Then when we go to craft the item, we'll check if selected item in the crafting window is, and then we'll do find by name Potion of Healing. Okay, so if the selected item is that item, then we will go ahead and trigger this event, Potion of Healing. And you can, if you want this to be something more specific, you could have it say trigger event create Draught of Healing. And this will be create Draught of Healing. But that's to your preference, to be honest. We don't set an after, because we're already doing this with our duration logic. So make sure when you're creating more of these, just do a trigger event. And you would do one of these for every single item that you craft in the game. Okay, so when you're doing if selected item equals, let's say, reference to the Potion of Luck that we have, we would do equals Potion of Luck, and then trigger event potion semicolon Potion of Luck. Like I said, all these states is whatever you want to name them. Like I said, you can do create semicolon Potion of Luck or whatever helps you easier with that. So yeah, that's all we do there. And then inside of the event is where we now just create everything. So the first pass comes from pressing the button. Now, this is where all the checks get done. So when we click craft, it'll debug clicked. Now, if we have no item selected to be crafted, it'll stop it clicked. If we do have a selected item, it will pass one. Then it will run the logic of that item. So we click, we do have an item selected, and then we run that item's logic. So now we'll check if all of our ingredients are in line. So if we have an empty vial in our herbs inventory here, so if we have enough empty vials, so greater than or equal to 1, if we have enough elderberries greater than or equal to 1, and if we have enough wheat uh, greater than or equal to 1. And these are all relative to the ingredient. So you could, you know what, I might push an update after I'm done recording this to make it a little bit easier for these values. So you don't have to edit it for each item that you're making. I'll probably just make a reference to the ingredient cost here. I don't even know why I didn't think about that when I made this before. So yeah, don't worry about doing these values manually for the ingredient cost. I'll just have it make a reference to those later on. So just don't worry about it. So anyways, this will check if we have at least this much, the cost of the item in our inventory, okay? And then it'll go all the way down the list for every ingredient that we have. Obviously, if you add more ingredients, let's say 5 or 6 for a certain item, you want to make sure these are all populated. And then when it gets to the last one and it passes, then we want to let them know that we passed our 3rd check and we're ready to go. So what we want to do is we're going to play an audio clip. Now, I gave you guys the option to do it in whatever item you're doing. So if you want potions to play like a bubbly sound, then they can play bubbly sounds when they're created. Axes can create like an anvil smack sound, so that's where you would set the audio for, for that crafted item. Then we're going to go ahead and set the button interactable on our crafting button to false. Then we are going to trigger the event set cooldown in cooldown border, which is the event here, which is our cooldown, obviously. And then pretty much what that does is that it will set the cooldown, and then after the cooldown reaches 0, then it'll set that button to be interactable again, which will allow us to craft more things. And then this is just setting the text to cooldown as float, so it can update. And then this is setting that to the duration. So all pretty simple stuff. Let's go back to our item here. And then now we want to make sure we update all the values in our inventory. So we're crafting the item. Now we want to make sure we take that away from the inventory. So we want to take away empty vials from the inventory. So we want to get the current empty vial count, which is what this whole block is here, and then we want to minus it by 1. And like I said, I'm going to push the update, so these will all be relative to the count that's inside of the selected item here. So you guys don't have to worry about doing all these manually. Like I said, it was an inconvenience that I did. I'll probably allow you to do this one manually to keep it, so you can edit that to whatever you want. But other than that, these will all be automated. So you will only have to edit it in one place here. And then, so we'll take away the items, and then we'll go ahead and add the final item, which is the last in the list here. So we're taking away from the herbs, and then we're adding it to the potions. So we're going to add 1 draught of healing, 2, remember, the current draught of healing count inside of it, plus 1. Okay, and then we're setting the counts on the menu itself. Remember the green counts here. We're going to set those counts to the current amount that we have in the inventory. So pretty much we're just updating the values. Because if we didn't update the values, these amounts would stay to what they were. So if this was like 2 out of 2 flask, or empty vial, it will stay 2 out of 2. It won't update to 1 out of 2. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for crafting.